So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a really great pleasure to be here again. This is my 5th IGLTA conference. I have to say I'm kind of speechless by the introductions made by our sponsors. It's fantastic to see so much passion, so much commitment, and so much real involvement in our cause. As I say, I'm really proud to be here again. John invited me 5 years ago to be a speaker in Madrid. And as Lauren just said, I actually am wearing 3 hats here at this convention. First of all, I'm the Business Development Director for Jacobs Media Group, which is Travel Weekly Group in the UK. Secondly, I'm the Director of Europe, Middle East and Africa for PARTA. And thirdly, I'm also the partner of Loanne Holden. And I have to say that here, that's the most important hat I wear. And John Tanzella changed our lives by introducing us 3.5 years ago. And now I have to get on with my thing, otherwise I'll start bursting into tears. Anyway, great to be back here amongst friends and great to be part of this fantastic convention. I'm actually really amazed that every year when I come, there are more people here. I was totally astonished yesterday when John asked the newcomers to stand up in the room because there were so many of you, so many new people who've never been here before. And I think that's a real tribute to IGLTA and the team, that you're managing to drive this growth and visibility for IGLTA with a really, really small team out of Fort Lauderdale. So I was in Buenos Aires a few weeks ago at the WTTC Summit, and there was a lot of interesting discussions about the growth of travel and tourism as a whole, as an industry. And the usual things that we all know, that it's 10% of global GDP, 10% of employment around the world. But the one thing that really amazed me out of the statistics was that in the last 2 years, 5 out of every 10 jobs that have been created, new jobs, have been related to travel and tourism. So that kind of goes to show that although it's always been a really quickly growing industry, the way it's growing now is like faster than most other industries in the world. So we're really involved in a really important sector. And when we look at infrastructure development around the world, airport capacity, building and management, road, rail infrastructure, number of hotels going up in emerging markets in the Middle East, in Asia, and so on, we can see that actually we're part of something huge. And the LGBT segment of that is also part of that very fast-growing industry and is perhaps growing even quicker than the rest of the industry. So what we're going to look at today is some of the sort of global data trends which have evolved over the last couple of years. And the way we're going to do it is we have a very smart young man who's going to make a presentation for 15 minutes about generally the growth of LGBT and the data that he has collected through his organization, which is RIWI. His name is Zach Meadow, and he's a data research associate, I believe that is his title, for RIWI, and they have been working with a Geneva-based organization running global surveys in over 77 countries. So he's going to share some really interesting data with us to start with, and then I'm going to invite our industry specialist panels up onto the stage, and we're going to have a conversation about how that data that he's collected actually relates into the everyday lives and jobs of the people in this room and of our panelists. So with no further ado, Zach, I'd like to invite you up onto the stage. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. If you'll permit me 1 second, I just need to grab some water. So, before getting here, to be honest, I didn't really know what to expect from lesbian, gay, bisexual travel and tourism conference. This is not the world that I live in. I live in the surveys, statistics, data analysis, very boring. I think you guys probably have a lot more fun than I do, but so thank you for having me here. All that being said, Daniella mentioned, rousing speeches from the sponsors this morning, and I think really ties into what we're trying to accomplish at REWE, which is, I don't know who said it first, but what gets measured gets done. And broadly, the acceptance of LGBTI populations all over the world is something that has not historically been measured very well. And what we set out to do with our partnership with ILGA is to change that, because we want there to be a lasting impact in the world, and we want to know what's happening in every single country in the world in terms of how people view LGBTI populations. So what we created is something that's called the Minorities Report, and last year, 2017, was our second year. And basically, just to give you an overview, this is the world's largest study on attitudes towards sexual and gender diversity. So the survey began in 2016 in 65 countries, and actually began in a partnership between ILGA and REWE, tracking the results of the Irish same-sex marriage referendum in 2015. So that grew into the first iteration of the global study in 2016, 65 countries. We were in 77 countries last year. We're hoping to expand this more and more rapidly over time. Last year, we had over 117,000 respondents. Those are people who are answering full surveys. Just to give you a sense of scale, we had approximately 400,000 people all over the world engaging with this topic at some level. So respondents are coming from every continent in the world, and including a lot of criminalizing states where talking about these issues is a criminal act, right? You can be imprisoned in Russia for, gay propaganda, right? And in Uganda, it's not so friendly everywhere in the world, as you all know so well. So, I mean, we've gotten a lot of reach. We've been profiled in many, many media outlets for this. And we think that, over 100 million people have heard something about the REWE ILGA survey. So just a few professional disclaimers. When a lawyer gets up and talks, they have to say this is not professional legal advice. When a stats person gets up and talks, I have to say that our data is not necessarily predictive of political trends, nor of any particular experience anyone might have in a country. This is macro data, so we have to go from there. So one of the most important things that we found from the survey is just actually asking how many people know someone who is in the LGBTI family. So, of course, there are LGBTI people in every country and every community in the world, but as you can see from the data here, only 41% of people actually know and acknowledge that fact. And one of the things I want to show here, this is about the number of people who say that they can respect their religion and be respectful of sexual diversity simultaneously, is just how strongly knowing someone correlates with that fact. So you can see strongly agree, it's up to 50%, and strongly disagree, the majority of people in that case don't know, say they don't know someone who is LGBTI. So, to pause for a second just to think about that, as you're, sending people from the LGBTI family all over the world, what you're in fact doing is introducing the world to these people and making great strides for human rights in their own regard. So, I mean, there's a little bit more weight to your work in that respect. So this is one of the most important questions that we have in the survey, which is how comfortable are you socializing people who are openly, romantically, or sexually attracted to people of the same sex? And actually, I should pause and just say that the wording in this question is a bit funky, right? We're not saying how comfortable are you socializing with gay people, right? The reason for that is that these terms are not well understood everywhere in the world. We worked with a very large and diverse advisory panel, and what we wanted to achieve was something that was truly global in nature, that wasn't following specific categories or language that occur in the West. And so you'll see this kind of clunkier, but what we think is very clear language right throughout that people in every country can understand when translated into their language. So just some regional breakdowns here. What you see is Oceania, so Pacific Islands, Australia, New Zealand, just far ahead of everyone, basically, followed by Americas, Europe. Europe might seem a bit low. Bear in mind that that's combined Eastern and Western Europe, so the data may seem a bit skewed in that respect. I just wanted to provide some further regional breakdowns. The thing is, this data set is huge, right? Millions and millions of data points, and it's going to contain probably every country that all of you folks are from, probably every country that your organizations work in. So I strongly encourage you to go and check out the data more. So these are just some very high-level regional breakdowns. So in the Americas, North America is leading by far in terms of comfort socializing. The Caribbean is behind the rest, but changing very quickly. This is just a breakdown. Unfortunately, the slide got a little messed up there, but this is just a breakdown in Asia. Of course, Asia is one of the fastest growing tourist destinations. Southeast Asia is far ahead of everyone else in terms of comfort socializing. East Asia is the one that's changing the most quickly. Central Asia and the Middle East lagging behind. So just going back to that religion question, the reason that I'm focusing on this is that religion is such a good proxy of people's deepest held values and personal convictions. And so to see, an openness to sexual diversity being correlated with religion and to thinking about those two together is a great measure of how people are going to react to people from the LGBTI family overall. So again, a breakdown here. The Americas and Oceania really leading the pack. Another America's breakdown. The Caribbean, again, sort of the furthest behind in terms of the recognition of sexual diversity and its place in religious communities. And in Asia, sort of a similar thing that you would expect, the Middle East and Central Asia being the furthest behind, Southeast Asia and East Asia coming the most quickly. Of course, what everyone wants to know is how are things changing over time, and so, we changed the language of the survey a lot coming into 2017 simply because we wanted to achieve that kind of global recognition. But before we did that, we decided to keep trending some of the questions that we had done from 2016. So these are just some specific country examples about how people say their feelings towards LGBTI people have changed over time. So the thing that's interesting about these data is that all of these countries are really good news stories except for Malaysia. So some things are happening in Malaysia, attitudes are getting worse. What's interesting in Thailand is that people are saying that their feelings are not becoming much more favorable, that they're not changing as much, but that's because their feelings are actually higher to begin with, right? So what you would want to say is, oh, my feelings haven't changed. They've always been very positive, right? But if that's not the case, then what we want to see is people saying that they're becoming more favorable. So that's true, in Kenya, in Nigeria, in Uganda. So these are, they're still in the 30% range. So it's not a majority of people, obviously, but it's just to illustrate that in, Eastern and Western Africa, things are changing very, very rapidly. So again, same-sex marriage is an excellent proxy on people's level of acceptance overall. These are all, again, very good news stories. I think even in a country like Algeria, right, Northern African, fairly conservative country, going from 9 to 19% in 1 year. You can see just the impact of the opening of the internet, of various media are having in these communities. China, things are going up. What was that, 9%? Kenya, Mozambique. So this is all to say that there are parts of the world which are not the most obvious for this community right now, but things are changing very, very rapidly, and really our goal is to track that and put some hard numbers behind those intuitions and those assertions. So as I said, this is one of the largest data sets actually that my company produces overall, and so I really encourage everyone to go to ILGA's website. It's also on our website to check it out. And the last plug that I'll make for this is that this is work that my company does sort of in the public interest, and it's work that we donate to ILGA and to the UN. That being said, this is a sponsored project, and we're always seeking new sponsors to get involved with this. So I'll leave you with that, and I hope you all check out the data, and I hope it can be useful in your work. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Zach, and congratulations on presenting all that data in such a concise and quick way. What I'd like to do now is to invite our panelists up onto the stage, starting with Maria Cuba, who is the head of Airbnb Experiences, which is basically one of the new offerings that Airbnb has designed to engage with the Airbnb community. Maria comes from Massachusetts, but was raised in Puerto Rico with a multicultural multicultural background. She's actually one of Airbnb's earliest employees and the founder of their Latino employee group, Juntos. She has multiple passions, which I hope she'll share with us later, but she's here to speak about that. Next, Giuliano Ferrari, who is with GGK Travel, which is a tour operator and travel agent in Brazil. Brazil, as you probably know, has IGLTA's second largest membership base outside of the US, so congratulations, Brazil. Giuliano is the senior director and leads the LGBTQ marketing at TGK Travel, and this was founded in 1991. I don't believe that Giuliano was there in 1991, otherwise he's clearly looking very good for his age. One thing I did learn about him last night, that he has the most beautiful tattoo in the room on his chest, okay? So I saw part of it last night, and he's not really appropriately dressed to show it to you right now, but maybe later on at the dinner or during the course of the day, you could just ask him, because it's really quite something. Last but not least, I'd like to invite Albert Herrera up onto stage. Albert is with Virtuoso. He has an innate understanding of the luxury travel market, which has elevated him to one of Virtuoso's most prominent executive positions, Senior Vice President of the network's extensive product portfolio. He joined in 2004 as the Vice President of Hotels and Resorts, and has added cruise lines, tour operators, on-site destination management companies, and tourism boards to the list of partners. So he's done a huge amount and is responsible for several of the offices. Now we have our entire panel. I'm just going to sit down and then we can start the discussion. Okay, am I live? Yes? Good? All right. So basically, welcome panelists. What I'd like to do is actually to get each of you just to say a couple of words, not about yourselves necessarily, but about what you're doing and why you're here today, and then we'll lead into a discussion about what Zach has just been talking about. So Maria, would you like to start as the only other lady on the panel? Do you have a tattoo?
A what?
A tattoo?
I don't.
Oh.
Thank you, Daniela. So actually, I wanted to clarify, I am the Global Diversity Lead for Experiences, not quite like the director, maybe one day, but want to clarify that. So thank you so much for having me here today. We're really excited to be part of this panel. After my first conversation with Gary and later with John, I was in love. And I said, I need to get myself there. So thank you so much for having us. As you know, Airbnb is a company that's very committed to diversity. We have been really outspoken about being an inclusive company, and we want our community to be inclusive. We actually have a community commitment that everybody on Airbnb takes part on when you join, and that basically says that everybody is welcome. And when you look at our mission, is for to belong, for everybody to belong everywhere. I was very inspired by the words earlier today of our colleagues from Marriott. Beautiful speech, by the way. And I think that we share that similar commitment of making sure that everybody belongs. With experiences, for those who don't know what experiences are, because this is a new market for us, experiences are activities hosted by local people in local communities where they share their expertise, their access, and their passion with either local members of their community or with travelers alike. And I'm going to go later on a little bit more in explaining that, but I want to give an opportunity to everybody to introduce themselves. And
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. Giuliano.
First of all, I'd like to say that I'm very proud and honored to be here and be part of this panel because it's my first time here at IGLTA. It's such a pleasure and an honor to represent my country with my other friends and my other colleagues. And I believe that Brazil and South America has a great challenge ahead, talking about tourism. I am the leader of the LGBT project at the TGK Travel. TGK Travel is a 25-year travel agency and also a tour operator. But we've started the LGBTQ project a year ago, where we got associated to IGLTA. And so I headed this project and started, and we are the first tour operator in Brazil to get this voice and to start talking to the LGBT community in a different channel, and then with this social media and products and experiences. It's a great challenge. It's a big challenge. We started training our attendants, our friends, our volunteers, all the company, and then we make just like some different events to talk to the other tour operators and other travel agencies to let them know that there's a big market and there are many, many, many experiences and opportunities to explore and offer to this target. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Albert, please.
Thank you, Daniella, and good morning, everyone. This is my first time as well to the IGLTA conference, and thank you for having me. This conversation, this partnership actually was with, we started the conversation with John Tanzella about 3 years ago into what we could do together with IGLTA and Virtuoso. Virtuoso, for those of you who may not know, we're like you, we're about to be 35 years old as a network. We have agencies in 50 countries with about almost 19,000 agents around the world. We call them travel advisors, about 500 agencies, and we work with about 1,800 partners in 120 countries. Obviously, it's all mostly focused on the luxury space, and what we do here is to find the right products, bring the right advisors, and to help promote travel around the world. And the best thing, and I'll quote what Juan said yesterday in the opening session, was about the passion, the connection, and all that. And Virtuoso believes in one thing, and we've used this tagline to us because there were no hashtags at that time. After 9/11, it was called Travel Unites, because after 9/11, we had to stimulate travel to make people get back in planes and visit destinations, and we still use it to this very day. Everywhere we go, and at our events as well, as hashtag Travel Unites, because that's what we do. We unite the world, we bring goodwill, and we share that as well. So, thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I think that's a great introduction. So one of the things I was thinking about in preparing for this panel is that we all have access to so much information, okay, and so much research and data. And there was a great session run yesterday by Tom Roth and Phil Paisley, is it? David Paisley from Community Marketing and Insights. And in that, they shared with us a whole lot of data about the differences between gay and bisexual men and the behavior of gay and bisexual women. And so lots and lots of interesting data points. But what was really interesting about it was that if you just look at those data points, then they're just statistics, 40% of this, 54% of that. But it's about how you then analyze and interpret that data and actually make it relevant for your business. And I think that's really what the key question is here in the room, because that is what will give you, all of us in the room, you people on the panel, the colleagues in the audience, the opportunity to think about what do those statistics actually mean for your business? What does that data mean for your business? And some of the points that Tom was pointing out was things like, looking at couples with children or couples without children, how that changes your marketing, about multi-generational travel, which has become very much part of mainstream travel, but actually hasn't really been applied in the LGBT sector yet. And so how actually the changing demographics and the changes in the way that we perceive data actually can help us run much more efficient businesses. So on that note, I would like to sort of ask all of you, panelists, what are your kind of go-to points for data? Where do you get your research? And then how do you apply it to making your businesses run more efficiently? Maria, would you like to start on that?
Sure. So we do have Airbnb is a big company. We've grown a lot, and with that, our community grows every day. Because we have such a big community, our community itself is a great source of information for us. And we really try to listen to what the community is telling us. Of course, it means that we have internal teams that deal with data. We run different, what we call experiments or data surveys. But I think
But is that your own data that you're collecting or data that you get from third-party sources?
Own data, yeah. But the team also informs itself by using data from other parties. For example, the data you shared today is incredibly valuable, and it's something that I'm going to make sure, if we don't use it already, that we have access to it and that we include it. So we run things internally, but I think that Airbnb is very community-driven, and one of the ways that we engage with what is happening or people are feeling is the direct communication that we have from our members. We have a customer service team that every day is speaking with the people that use our product, that take experiences, for example. So we listen to that. Another thing is that the product has evolved a lot per the request of the people. So let's say that we started offering experiences, for example, and these were immersions. They took place throughout different days. So you would go, or you will book an experience that will take place between 1 or 2 or 3 days. And then the feedback that we had from the community was, we would love it if we could take an experience that maybe was 1 day, a couple of hours. So we adapted our product to serve those needs. So it's a combination of what we do in-house, what we get externally, but mostly is listening to all the keys that the community provides us through all the different ways that they communicate with us.
When you say experiences, sorry, we'll move on to you in a minute. What kind of experiences are we talking about? I think you prepared a couple of slides just to show, because I don't really understand what sort of things you're talking about.
Absolutely, and so yeah, perfect. So experience, I'm going to speak a little bit about this, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of what we plan for the future. So as you know, our mission at Airbnb is for everybody to belong everywhere. But with experiences, we have a mission that ties to that, but it's also very particular to experience, which is to provoke transformation. And experiences is perfect for that because, like I said, they are activities that local people, so thank you so much. Local people, and I don't know exactly how to, I guess I
just
press
the green one?
Yes, okay. Let's say everybody just like you and me, we all have passions, we have expertise, we have access to things, whether it's spaces in our homes, in our communities, in our workplaces, associations that we're members of, etc. If you have a passion that you want to share with your community, you want to share with the world, you can become an experience host. And these activities can range everywhere from like a cooking class to a tour to a wine and tasting pairing, an improv session, etc. And so today I wanted to share some of the experiences that we have on the site that are particular to the LGBTQ community. And there is various ways in which our narrative can take part in an experience. It can be hosted by somebody who identifies as LGBTQ, or the experience itself can pertain to LGBTQ issues, promote our narratives. So for example, this one right here is a tour of the Castro. And you can, as a traveler or as a local, you can come in, you can book this experience and learn about the history of the Castro, about the struggles of our community, the challenges that we face, and also the wins and why we're here today strong and proud as we are, right? Let's say that you come from a different country. You can now take this experience and learn for yourself from somebody who is part of the community and who lives this every day. Here's one. This one takes place in Asia, and this was really interesting. This person studies, is an expert in sexual studies, and what she does is that she takes you around this community, and she shares with you all the different projects and things that are happening there, and you get to interact with the community every day. But she also teaches you along the way from her perspective as an expert in this area. This one is one of my favorites. You get to be a photojournalist for the day, and you learn about LGBTQ issues, and then you write a piece that is later showcased in a website. So anybody can come in and learn from your experience and the experience that you had interacting with the community. This one is a walk with a local. It's in Amsterdam. I have two in Amsterdam that I love. Again, this is about history, understanding the community, sharing our point of view. And this is places with a storyteller, and you get to write a story about your experience in there. You get to share it with your loved ones.
Great.
London Soho, this is another one, and I know. And then Living Out Loud, which is a drag bingo. Amazing, you go there. I love it. I actually recommend it. Yes.
That's tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Tonight.
This was in
Thank you.
Detroit. And then this was in Dublin. The host here is actually somebody who's very active in the LGBTQ movement. And the last one is in, this is in New York, and then we have one in Havana. What is great about this experiences is that, and I'll tell you a story from a host, from the host who did the Castro experience. He told me that one time he was hosting his experience, and this woman, who was a cis straight female woman, was taking the experience. And he starts in his apartment talking a little bit about his own struggles, and then moves on to the Castro, visiting various sites. And she was very quiet. She didn't have much to say, sort of like held back a little bit. And at the end, you know, he was nervous. He said, I wonder if she enjoyed it, if she really had an opportunity to understand what this was about. And so he asked her, and she said, I absolutely loved it. I never thought that I would have access to the community and an opportunity to really understand what this community is about. And I leave here today feeling like I'm not visiting this community, I am part of it. And I thought that was very powerful, because that's a moment of transformations that we want to provoke. That person came in with one point of view about us and what we're about, and what the LGBTQ community is about, and she left with a very different one where she feels inclusive, and one where she feels like now she can speak and be an advocate and an ally. So these are experiences. Please ask me any questions. My colleague Robert is also here, so if you see us, you know, we would love to talk to all of you and see how you can also host experiences on the site.
That's great. Thank you very much, Maria. Giuliano, I mean, obviously a lot of things have changed since you started your business in 1991. Share with us how you have access to data and how you use it to drive your business forward.
Well, unfortunately, in South America, do not have like a research or a company that's making like recent studies about the tourism and the LGBT. Actually, talking about LGBT in South America, it's quite difficult because we do not have so much material about. We have some associations that make some data about the Pride Parade, and it's not updated. The last one was about 2016. So it's a great challenge to find this kind of information. So I have to take the opportunity to search in other places and another
Or join
report.
IGLTA and
Exactly.
get information from there.
And I have already found recent research from Out Now report that it's from November of 2017, and it was an online research and was a partnership with Hornet. So we grab a little more updated information. So may I?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. So actually you have the information that Brazil has one of the largest and most dynamic LGBT communities and the biggest Pride Parade. 9.5 million Brazilians are LGBT and 5.7 have internet access. 141 billion annual PPP GDP income total from LGBT, and for leisure trips, they spend 6.7 billion annual is spent. In Brazil, we have the great popular events, gay events, also the Pride Parade from São Paulo and from Rio. There's also a gay surf event for gay and for lesbian that happened in the south of Brazil. Hell and Heaven in Bahia, Love Noronha, that's a great event, and also Carnival. So based on the information that we have from IGLTA, from the other reports, we're trying to bring the tourists to Brazil and also thinking about how they can be received in abroad, right? But the sources are really difficult to find, yeah. As she talked about experiences, our product, and I think that our product as tourism for LGBT has to be focused on experiences. We're not just interested in festivals and gay pride. We have many interesting. I like to take John Tanzella says that we're also an incredible diverse group. We're not stereotypes. We're interested in a wide range of travel experiences. So it's not limited to the LGBTQ things. We have many other experiences. In South America, we can think about adventure. You have many places in Chile, in Brazil, the Atacama Desert, winery in Brazil, in Chile, Argentina, Buenos Aires and Mendoza, culture. In Peru, we have they have already won the greatest destination and attraction as Machu Picchu and the gastronomic place. Nightlife, we have the biggest clubs in São Paulo and big parties and events for all kinds and all different styles. Urban life, shopping, paradises like Colombia, Ecuador, Argentina, and also Brazil in the north and northeast, and adventure. Well, I have a lot of experiences to say, but I know that our time is short.
Great, thank you very much. Albert, Virtuoso
yes,
started
Daniella.
very much as a luxury, consortia. How have you kind of built up the LGBT part of that, and also what research do you have available through your network and through your clients?
Fantastic, thank you. Well, Virtuoso is primarily technically an offline network, right? We utilize the resources of our own proprietary site, content that's given by our partners, etc., as well as our own. We have the data that we know what our travel advisors are booking around the world in terms of where they're going, what they're booking, maybe a cruise, maybe a hotel, and all. We also partner with organizations like YouGov into analysis for us. What we do, what's very different and very similar in a way, is for us, this data that we use helps us as we plan to attract the LGBT traveler and also just the average traveler, because sometimes there is no differentiation anymore to us, especially in the luxury space. I mean, the term was brought up yesterday about DINK, right? No kids. Guess what? They have kids now.
Yeah.
So we're looking for accommodations, for example, for 2 men traveling with their 3 kids, and of course, nannies and all that. So where do you find that around the world? The one thing which helps us with the data and the sources that we use is how we are able to use I guess you might say, the educational component. Last year we had 90,000 courses, training courses, and 10,000 advisors took those courses. And one of the most requested learnings or sessions was about LGBT travel. It was one of the most popular, and they want more courses.
Obviously, these are courses for agents?
For agents, to learn about what's new, where to go, where am I safe, what types of accommodations, cruise lines, what are they offering, and also experiences. All these things that come into play, and that's why John and I started talking, is what can we do together to sort of bring that and sort of educate these advisors around the world now. And that's the interesting thing is as well, when you start to look at content out there in terms of in the luxury space, there is a bit of a void. I mean, we work with big groups. We work with Marriott, we work with Belmont, we work with, and the list goes, Aman Resorts. So what can we do to tap into their resources that they're using to target the LGBT traveler? But for us, it's a bit more broad scale in terms of the luxury component of that.
And do you find that your partners, like the hotel chains you've just been speaking about, and also the cruise lines, are they able to provide you with the kind of information that you need in order to be able to evolve your own product offering to your clients? Or, you know, we have a lot of these people in the room today, which is fantastic. Do you need more information or more guidance and training from them in order to evolve your own product offering?
Yes, yes, and yes. We get a lot of information from these partners that we have, but it's forever evolving as well, right? The trends, where are they going? What new cruise ships are out there? What type of little nuances about how to accommodate these extended families or these travelers in these parts of the world. And also, we also work with tourism boards around the world that help with that information as well. So it all comes together, and obviously, like you have your big event. We have a little event that's held in Las Vegas in August with 6,000 people, and it's truly one-to-one dating, real hard work. John's been part of it, and if you look around the demographic in that room, obviously travel unites. I would say 3/4 of us are all gay there. So do not make the mistake of turning your grinder on, as it would just blow up. You know? I tried doing that once actually out of curiosity, and I'm like, whoa. So, but that's what I guess what we do in terms of bringing that.
That's great. Now you mentioned national tourist boards, and I think in the room somewhere we have a microphone, a roving microphone, and hopefully also Donna Karen from New York. Are you here? I can't see. Oh yes, she's just here, row number 4. So we were having a chat yesterday, and she's in charge of research for NYC&Co. Karen, could you share with us how you gather your data and how you use that to make NYC&Co a more effective marketing agency?
Oh, thank you, and thank you all. New York, NYC & Company, and our team touch on a lot of the different areas that have been mentioned so far. We buy syndicated data from different vendors, domestic vendors. DK Shiflett is actually here. They tell us about our domestic market. With a bit of challenge, the US government, Department of Commerce, tries to help us understand what's happening with the international market. Currently, that's a large challenge. We buy big data sets, credit card data, airline data, track digital data, and look at patterns. I work with CMI, Tom Roth, on the LGBT community in particular, targeting other diversity communities. And very much like the Virtuoso and the Airbnb model, we depend on our partners to help us understand the very local level perspective. And we run surveys with our members, NYC & Company's membership organization like this. I've been running a cultural audience survey with the city's museums and art organizations, about to launch the 5th wave of that. We've got 40,000 respondents who have told us how they consume arts and culture, generally, but specifically in New York. And then my job and my team's job is to try and put this all together and turn it around and give it back to our members and stakeholders. So I'm done. I was supposed to relax at this conference and just be in the audience.
No, but thank you very much. No, that's really, really helpful, because obviously you've done a lot of work on that. Round of applause for Donna. I also just wanted to, so basically we've talked a little bit about tourism trends. I had an also very interesting conversation last night with Peter Jordan, actually, about how sometimes people drive trends unexpectedly. So in general, we would think that the kind of evolution of corporate social responsibility and the policies around that are actually part of the agencies that are set up in the public sector sphere to look after that area. But actually what Peter was saying was that more and more that is actually the evolution of those trends is being driven by the private sector. Could you just pass the microphone to Peter there? In the 4th row, sorry, just the same row as Donna. Yeah,
hello again.
You. Peter, very briefly, because we haven't got much time. Thank you.
I think if we talk about trends, something that I found really, really interesting from listening to a conversation this morning, and as part of the research that I did that went into the report that I mentioned yesterday, is that it's clear that LGBT inclusion and diversity is good for business. And I think there's a lesson there that governments can take with them. Now, when we say why is it good for business, well, I think perhaps more cynical might say, well, it's just about marketing. It's just why that it's about looking good. But what's become very clear is, and it's really brilliant, of course, to hear from Marriott this morning, for example, is that it's essential to the very functioning of your business. When people can feel comfortable, they will communicate more, they will collaborate more, they will come up with more ideas, they'll be more creative, and that will help your business to be competitive. And partly what I've tried to do is also apply that theory also to destinations, in that if people feel more comfortable living where they do, if we can help people be who they are, then surely we'll be able to attract and reflect our visitors much better. So I think that I've been really interested to see how business has absolutely led the way there. I'm very aware that there's a lot of people who feel sometimes quite uncomfortable about the presence of corporate money and things like gay pride and others, but I do find it's really important, and business is showing how you can be consistent on this, and I think that in many cases been setting the example. So I congratulate the people who've been speaking this morning, and I think there's a lot of lessons that we can share. I think here we're sometimes preaching to the converted on this. You know, we get it, but of course we're all dealing with businesses and partners around the world who don't feel comfortable with identifying themselves with this particular segment. So I think there's a lot that we can still do to educate people and explain why it is good for them and their business.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we've almost run out of time. What I'd like to do is ask each of my panelists now to give like a 30-second view of what do you see as the greatest opportunity that you have to evolve your business in the next, let's say, 12 to 18 months? And how are you going to make that happen?
30 seconds.
Yeah, 30 seconds. Maria, 30 seconds.
It comes down to the people. Airbnb is by people, powered by people, and for people. And I believe that we'll continue to listen to our community and expand as our community demands from us and as it inspires us. With experiences, there is no limit. And I hope that anybody here feels inspired to do an experience, please let me know. And I want to leave you with a personal plug. So taking my Airbnb hat a little bit. I'm from Puerto Rico, and I just want to say that Puerto Rico is open for business and for travelers after the hurricane. So think about it the next time you take a trip.
Thank you very much. Giuliano?
I think the main thing that's our purpose at the company is to be authentic and to be engaged. So when you're open to listen to the community, to your own interns, to your own collaborators, and be aware of what are they talking, what's interesting, talk with other people, other friends, to take these trends. I think that's the main important thing, to be aware, not just the gay community, but all those letters, the lesbians and the bi and the transgender and the queer community. In São Paulo, we have such a big LGBT community that is very active, but most of the things, they talk to the gay men.
Yeah.
So there's a great opportunity to talk to all of them. There is such a great market to explore. So there are so many experiences that you can offer to all of these people, all the target. So my advice, my tip is be aware of them, be authentic, talk to them. Do not use stereotypes on your campaigns. Try to be them, to talk closer to them. I think it's the best thing to do.
Thank you very much. Zach, do you have anything you want to share with this audience? I realize it's just slightly off.
No, sure. I think coming from a data provider perspective, the thing that's I think helps businesses or organizations or whomever we're working with get the most out of our day and out of our work is when they have a question that is as narrow as possible, right? So oftentimes people are trying to solve a business problem or a political problem and they say, you know, we don't know, let's get some data on that, right? And it's a very big hand-waving reaction to whatever it is that they're trying to solve. But unless you're nailing down what is it specifically that you want to know, then you're not going to get a lot out of your data. And on the flip side of that, if you do know specifically what you want to know, then even when you're you have a broader picture. When you're zooming out from that, it's just going to be a richer and richer experience for you making business decisions, and you're going to get enormously more out of that. So think very concisely and saliently about what's the most important thing.
Perfect, thank you. Albert, last but not least.
Last but not least, okay. Know your audience. I mean, ties in with what we're all talked about, really. Know your audience and how to communicate with them and tell your story. I'm very selective about this word because how are we actually, we're preaching to the choir here. So how do we normalize the conversations that we have with the outside world, really? Because obviously travel, as I said, travel unites. And that's what people are looking for, right? It brings people together, maybe gay, lesbian, transgender, and the list goes on. And we just help the world as well. That's what we do.
That's great, and I think that we're pretty much out of time. So what I'd like to do is to very much thank my panelists for their wonderful contributions. And I'd like to also thank you as an audience. I know we all had quite a late night last night, but you're all here bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, as we say in England. So thank you all. Thank you to the team at IGLTA. And hopefully our panelists, I know we didn't really have time for audience questions, but they will be with us all day. So grab them when we're out in the coffee hall. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniella.
I will ask everyone just to sit down for one more sec. I know she said coffee hall and everyone